Welcome back to the Joust About Careers podcast. This is the place to learn about careers from the people who are actually doing the work every day. I'm your host, Brian Brott, and this week's guest is Stephanie Donahue. Stephanie works in the computer science field and is the America's Workplace Data, Apps, and Workflow Lead for Avanade. In this episode, Stephanie shares how a typical day looks in her position, how there is much more to computer science than coding, what it was like to start her own business, and much more. Whether you are interested in a computer science or business career or are still exploring your options, I hope that what Stephanie shares today will help all of you make better career decisions and have fulfilling career journeys. Enjoy the show. Stephanie, thank you very much for joining us today. And I'd like to start by simply asking, how does a typical day look for you as the North America Workplace Data, Apps, and Workflow Lead?
Yeah, so my day is pretty varied, actually. What's fun about my job is that I hit a lot of different facets of the business sitting at the area level. So, and first, I should probably let you know, I think my title's changing slightly because it's now America's instead of North America lead. So I work now with Canada, the United States, as well as Brazil. So pretty excited about that. And my day really consists of looking at three different things in the business. So I help with marketing and our go-to-market strategy, and I assist with sales and technical pre-sales. So I work directly with customers. And I also work with delivery. So there's delivery oversight. Sometimes I'm actually staffed on projects in terms of doing IT strategy. So I really hit a lot of different areas of the business. I do work from home, so I'm home probably 60 to 70% of the time. I travel when I'm in front of customers. You can probably see on the screen behind me here. This is my home base, my home office. Friday, so super casual. So that's also a pretty nice thing about working from home is that I can, work in my sweatpants, put a nice top on and go to work every day. So so I work with people all day long though. I'm on calls from 8 a.m. to 5 or 6 p.m. most days. I did previously have a global role, so my schedule is all over the place. I used to take calls all well into the evening, which I don't need to do anymore, which is nice. So I have a pretty varied set of responsibilities in this role.
What exactly does Avanade do?
So Avanade is a joint venture company between Microsoft and Accenture. And when you say joint venture, people tend to think, oh, you're a startup, right? Because you're kind of this joint company between two. But we've been around for about 25 years. And you can think of Avanade as the Microsoft-focused consulting arm of Accenture.
Okay. Now, you were named the Microsoft 2024 Global Business Transformation Copilot Partner of the Year. So you have a thing for long titles. So can you tell us a little bit about what that award was and what you did to earn that?
Yeah, so my group in particular, so going back to that long title, Workplace Data Applications and Workflow, our team specializes in workplace optimization and in value realization. So if you think about the Microsoft tools that you use at work every day, Microsoft Teams, SharePoint, where you store your files, workflows and automation, we call that Power Platform, and now Microsoft 365 Copilot, which is Microsoft's generative AI platform. All of those things kind of in a nutshell, we help companies use those tools to work more efficiently. So we identify pain points in using the tools that they already own to remove manual work and create better processes. And so in the past year, as you can imagine, we went from being really efficient in using those tools without generative AI. About a year ago, Microsoft released their Copilot platform and things really blew up. And the interest is huge, right? Everybody wants to, I think ChatGPT might be what most people are familiar with, and Copilot for M365 is like the business Microsoft version of that has access to all of the content within your tenant, which means your email, your files, all of the stuff that the chats that you have back and forth every day. And we're really transforming the way people work. If you think about coming in, you check your email every day and you go through one by one. It's a tedious process. You figure out what you need to get done. You make this manual to-do list, right? And then you have to surface through that. And then you go to all these meetings. Well, at least for a lot of people, you go to meetings back to back to back all day long. You take all these notes, right? And all those things you're kind of tracking in this very manual way. Copilot, now you can come in and just ask it, right? Like, what's the most important thing I should be working on today? It already has all of that context. So we've spent the last year or so really helping customers understand how to use this new technology because it's so transformational. It's hard, right? Especially for those of us that have been working 25, 30 years. We've got our ways, we're kind of set in our processes. We've got to come in and help people really understand I've got to totally throw what I know out the window and kind of start over with this new technology. And that's really what that award is about. We deployed more Copilot for Microsoft 365 seats than any other Microsoft partner. So we've done a lot of work in the last year, really helping organizations work differently.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And I'm sure you've had a lot of new experiences in your career with the advent of AI and how that's coming into play. So I'm guessing when you were a high school senior at Van Buren, you probably weren't thinking about AI, and probably, a lot of the technology that we have now just wasn't to the level where it is today. So when you were in high school, what were you thinking about for a career?
So I'm actually one of the rare people in computer science that was thinking about computers from high school, which sounds super nerdy. I kind of was, right? I was very fortunate that I had a computer in the house growing up. My dad worked for Marathon and was working on a computer every day, and he felt that it was really important for us to have one at home as well. So I was fortunate in that I had that early exposure both there at home as well as we had them at school. And I just really took a strong interest in computers. I have memories of creating HTML websites in my free time. I tore apart an old computer when we got a new one. I wanted to see the insides of it or whatever, right? So when I sat down with my guidance counselor, and I very much remember the conversation, and he said, "You're good at math and science, and we think you should go into engineering." I was like, "That's great. It's going to be computer science engineering," right? I mean, that was me in high school. I was very much headed that direction from the get-go. And I know that's not the case for many people. Many of my peers come from a variety of backgrounds. So it's certainly not a prerequisite today to getting into the field.
Right. That is cool that you had that passion though from the beginning and knew you really enjoyed it. And obviously that is a high demand field with how much technology is in the world today.
Fortunate choice, not
Yes.
knowing 20
Yes.
years ago,
Yes.
right? We had no idea,
Yes.
no idea where this would go.
Now you went to Ohio State and earned a bachelor's degree in computer science.
Yes.
As people are heading out into or finishing high school now, someone who wanted to get into the computer science field, do you feel like the 4-year degree is still the route to go? Is it the 2-year route? Is it just going and getting certifications and getting into the workforce and building experience? And obviously it's not one size fits all for everybody, but what are some of the options out there? And what do you think maybe you would be doing today if you were trying to get into the field?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't change anything in terms of the way I got in. I would say though, I didn't have very many choices when I took this path. So I got into computer science. I started in engineering and I dropped the engineering part of it when I realized that computer science and computer science engineering were the same degree without the extra engineering classes. So for me, I was like, what am I doing in engineering? I love computer science. Let's focus there, right? But other than that, I always think a 4-year degree is a great path for a lot of people, just as a default. Especially if you're not totally sure what you want to do, it does give you a chance to just get out into the world, learn more, and figure out a path. And I think it can be a really great option. If you are a really good student with really good grades and coding is your passion, I think computer science engineering, those are really fantastic professions to get into. The challenging part is that we have a lot of roles within computer science and in the kind of the realm of IT that aren't coding. And I don't think we spend enough time talking about those roles. And you don't necessarily need to have that coding degree in order to go after that path either. Let's say your family just doesn't have the funding for you to go to college. Go out, get a certificate, go play around. There's a lot of tools available online that you can get to, low cost, no cost. Get yourself familiar with coding, or whatever part of IT that interests you. Go get interested, or go out on the internet and learn, and you can pick up a job that way, right? It might be a longer path for you to go that way. You're not getting hired into the largest organizations with the best recruitment and all of that, but you can definitely get into well-paying jobs with kind of that ad hoc approach of teaching yourself based on lower cost classes online. So there's two things that I think you can do there. And then outside of that, we have business analysts, we have people that go into help desk that have a more infrastructure background, networking, those sorts of things. So you can get into like MIS degrees, which are more in the business school. There's just a myriad of options based on what your interests are. And definitely the focus tends to be on coding. But I can tell you, I have a 4-year degree. I did a lot of coding, and I knew by the time I got to the end of my time at Ohio State that I was not going to code. When I got out of school, that was not my interest. And so I went more of the help desk route and infrastructure and all of that. So the other nice thing I think is that even if you pick a direction, you're not married to that direction. You can always shift within the industry itself too. So lots of options.
Yeah, options are always good. And, looking at your career journey, you started a company called Pate Group. You were the founder and served as president and so forth. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and advice you would give to others who are thinking about starting businesses?
It's an interesting thing to do, right? I say that I raised the business alongside of my kids. They were very young. I have 2 boys, and they were very young when I decided to leave my comfy consulting position and join a couple folks in starting a business. It's definitely one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. I feel like I learned a whole lot. I ran that business. We started from scratch and built it into a multi-million-dollar business over the course of 8 years. We had a team of about 20 offshore by the time we got done, and I exited. Definitely something that taught me a lot of lessons. And I'd say if you're someone who has that entrepreneurial spirit, don't be afraid of it, because it's really fulfilling to go out and be able to have that level of control and be able to do the things that you're passionate about. So I say that with some caution. I had the benefit of having a husband who had a full-time job with full benefits. So it's a little easier for me because I did have that to rely on as we built up the business. And as you know, benefits are really tough when you're out on your own. So those are all factors that I think you should consider if you're going to go all in versus doing it as a part-time gig while you're working full-time and those sorts of things. It all depends on where you're at in your life. I had small kids and I had a husband and I had a little bit of flexibility, and it gave me the flexibility. I could just leave for the day, go to the school, if I wanted to. And it gave me that flexibility. But on the same sense, I missed Easter 1 year because I was working on a down issue for a customer and there was nobody else, right? When you work a small company. So pluses and minuses, weigh them heavily. But I don't regret it. I think it was a really interesting time of my life that really set me up well to come into a large organization like Avanade.
You talked a little bit about, certifications, things like that could be a pathway into this career field. Are there any things that you would recommend for high school students while they're still in high school that they could start doing in order to get started down this career path? Whether it is, like you said, taking coding classes, is there more to it that they could be doing that they don't have to wait until they get out of high school?
Oh, for sure. There's a lot of summer classes that you can take, and even down into the younger grades. If you have younger siblings that are interested in this sort of thing as well, like they have robotics classes. for young people that are elementary all the way through high school. There's Girls Who Code. There's things like that where there are definitely, if you go searching, there are organizations that are set up for young people because there's a huge gap in STEM in general, especially for women. But overall, we can't find enough good qualified people. So I say the earlier the better. And if you just look online, there are plenty of classes you can take. There's things online. There are things in person. There are summer camps. But in general, I would say look for the things that interest you, right? Robotics isn't for everyone, but maybe you could find something else that's interesting. And then as you get a little older, 18 plus, you can start to look for internships. And I will tell you that internships were super important for me to very quickly understand, coding was not for me, but I still loved IT and understanding what else was available to me that didn't necessarily get presented to me in the classroom. Right. So, and use your network, right? If you're interested and you have questions, they could call me or they could call somebody else that they know that's in the industry. And the other thing I say is don't be shy. Use your network and reach out to the people because it is very much in business in general, use who you know and not just what you know.
You talked a little bit about some of those negatives of owning your own business, having to be away from your family on a major holiday and so forth. Thinking about the computer science field and where you are currently, what are some maybe other positives and negatives that students might want to be aware of as they pursue this field?
There's different personality types in the field. And so when you look at that, like if I look at my career, like if I would have assumed like, if I'm in IT and I'm in computer science, I could only be the person who sits in the corner and codes, right? Then I would have abandoned it. You definitely need to keep in mind, right? You've got, like I said, I'm in consulting. I love it. I love being in front of people. And so, there's just so many job opportunities. You have all these different flavors of it that you have available that you can take advantage of.
Any other negatives that might be out there?
It's one of those things where if you're someone who likes that nice, steady, I'm going to do the same thing every day for the rest of my life, this is not for you. I'm out all the time. I listen to podcasts. I read. I'm out on the internet learning all the time. I work with customers and learn new things, and you have to be on your toes every day. And customers will call you out on it, which is amusing. They're like, you didn't mention this. I'm like, that came out yesterday, but thank you for bringing it up. Right. So, so it's definitely a challenge from that perspective to really stay up because you're just never going to know everything you need to know.
Right. And I think, like you said, the podcast, I mean, that's a great resource now that people can be doing almost anything and still learning at the same time. So using those tools, definitely important. So as we wrap up, and as you think about your career journey, is there anything that you know now about careers that you wish you had known when you were in high school?
Yeah, I think the one thing about my career is that I have always done the thing that no one else wanted to do. And that has served me so well over the years. And I don't know, I guess I kind of tripped into that. I maybe somewhere halfway through had a manager who pulled me inside and said, why are you doing this? You're really good at that instead. And I said, well, everyone's trying to do this and I want to prove that I'm as good as everyone else. And he's like, but fine, but you're really good at this other thing. And that other thing happened to be SharePoint. And because of his encouragement, and I did the other thing, SharePoint, based on his recommendation, and that's still the field that I'm in today with workplace optimization, very much centered around SharePoint, which then turned into Teams, which is now Copilot for M365 and generative AI. Like, it was the best direction that I had ever received. And I'm not sure that I would have made that decision on my own without the proper guidance. And so now I look at that and I say, what's everybody else doing? And then where do I actually fit? And is that actually a better path for me? And that served me very well.
Well, Stephanie, you've obviously been very successful, and I really appreciate you sharing all of this with us and with all of our students. And I hope that some of them will reach out to you if they do have any other questions. So thank you very much and good luck as you can continue your career journey.
Thank you.
If you liked this Joust About Careers episode, you can explore previous episodes and highlights to learn about even more careers of Van Buren graduates. To be sure you don't miss upcoming episodes, Please click subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform so you'll know when the next episode is released. Thank you for spending a portion of your day with us, and we hope you will continue to prepare for your future by learning just about careers.